This video will be a quick review of adding fractions. Let's put the date at the top of our page and today's topic, which will be adding fraction review. The essential question is very straightforward. It is, how do we add fractions? When we add fractions, we have to think about one very important thing. We need to look at the denominator of the fraction. As I'm sure we all know, the denominator is the number at the bottom of the fraction. It tells us how many pieces or parts we are breaking the whole into. It essentially is telling us the size of the pieces in our fraction. Do you remember the name of the number on top in a fraction? The part of the fraction that tells us how many parts we have? I hope we are all thinking of the same thing, and that is numerator. Okay, now that we have that settled, let's review adding fractions. In the left-hand column, I'm going to write a quick question. The question is, how do we add fractions if the denominator of our fractions that we are adding are the same? Let's say we want to add 1/8 plus 3/8. Let me see what that looks like just in case it helps to see it visually. Since I'm adding two fractions that are broken into the same size pieces, it's really straightforward. When I add fractions with the same denominator, I can simply add the numerators. That will tell me how many pieces we have combined, right? And then I can keep the same denominator. For example, I had 1/8 and I added 3/8, so in total I have 4 pieces, and those pieces are all still 1/8 of a whole, which means I have 4/8. Some of you are probably thinking, hey, that's the same as 1/2, right? And you're right. Remember our work with factors? We use factors to simplify our fractions. If I look at my fraction 4/8, I know that 4 and 8 have a common factor, and their greatest common factor is 4. So I am going to divide both my numerator by 4 and my denominator by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, 8 divided by 4 is 2, so 4/8 simplified is equivalent to 1/2. In the left-hand column, let's write one more quick question. This time we want to know, how do we add fractions if the denominators are different? Oh, sorry, I see that I forgot an S here. Denominators are different. Let's say we want to add 1/3 plus 1/4. This time we can't just add the numerators here because the denominators tell us that the size of the pieces in the fractions are different. Do you see how my 1/3 is larger than my 1/4? They're different sizes. We can't just combine them. To work through this problem, we need to remember our work with multiples. First, we're going to find a common multiple to break both pieces of fractions into the same size. What's the lowest common multiple of 3 and 4? I hope we all said 12, right? So we're going to change these pieces from 1/3 and 4ths into 12ths, so they're all the same size. To turn my 1/3s into 12ths, I had to multiply my 1/3s by 4. Right? I needed to cut each of these into 4 extra pieces so that there were 12 altogether. Right? 3 times 4 gave me my 12 pieces. That meant that 1/3, when I cut my 1/3 into 4 parts, was 4, so I actually have 4 12ths. 1/3 is the same as 4 12ths. With my 4ths, I had to cut each of those pieces into 3 parts. Right? So I took my 4 and multiplied it by 3 to make 12. I did the same thing with my numerator, right? Because that 1/4 was cut into 3 more parts. So 1 times 3 is 3. Right? 3 12ths is the same as 1/4. It's equivalent. Now, both my denominators are the same, so I can go back to my original strategy. I will add the numerators, and I will keep the denominator 12. 4 plus 3 is 7. My denominator was 12, so my answer is 7/12. This can't be simplified because 7 and 12 don't share any common factors other than 1, right? So that is my final answer. This was a very quick review of adding fractions that has answered our essential question, how do we add fractions? This should be review. If it's not, come in and make sure you check in with me and see if we can find some ways that you can practice this some more.